first time we've seen you in a tour match in a couple of months. What pleased you the most about today?
Well, just getting back into the back on tour really, and making sure I do come through the first round. You know, there is a bit of a relief to that because you don't quite know where you're at, but you know, you're confident how you're hitting the ball at the end, that you're serving also, and you're moving the way you do, and you know where your game's at, kind of. And it's just important then, when things might not go so well, is to not panic and believe that the finish line is far away for the opponent as well.
Do you feel an absence because of Rafa? I mean, do you miss him? Do you miss his presence here?
Well, sure. I mean, he's always good for the story and good for the tournament. He's a favorite wherever he plays. Doesn't matter what surface it's on. But then, for some reason, you know, once a tournament gets underway, there's so many other stories and great matches and
tough players.
Tough players and other subjects to talk about as well. And you don't want to talk about the negatives. I don't want to say it's a negative story. Rafa's a great story, but it's his injury is now taking for a long time, and it's so you kind of just leave it on the side. You know, it'd be better with him on tour, but you just kind of unfortunately move on with it.
One of the things you were asked on court by Jim Courier after a match I was interested in, because he compared, well, you're going for your 18th major. This lady here has got 18. She had
already there.
Yeah, she had a great rivalry with Martina. He asked you about your rival. You said that you enjoy the rivalries of the game. I'm interested to know which one you've enjoyed the most, because you've been through a few generations now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Was it the rivalry with Agassi?
That's what I'm asking you. That's what I want to know. I mean, you had Roddick and Hewitt, and then you obviously you've had Rafa, you've got Novak now, you've got Murray. So
exactly. I enjoyed, obviously, when I came on tour and I could play against the guys I knew from TV, like Pete and Andre and Moya and Henman and all those guys. I loved that time, you know. And then, obviously, playing the guys from my generation, you know, as you mentioned, that was a cool time as well. You know, who could make the break earlier? They did, you know, Safin, Roddick, and Hewitt. They all three of them won a slam before me. And then, you know, you're trying to catch up, and then eventually I did, and we had these great matches. And then obviously the new generation came through. And then I guess out of that one, Rafa sticks out, you know, just because of the epics we had in all those major finals, which I had more semis with Novak, you know, and that's, I think, also what he had with Rafa, but he's obviously catching up quickly. And so I like that, because for a time, I like to just sort of dominate and just sort of try to win everything and only focus on myself, and that's it. And then all of a sudden all these guys came along, and then you start, and exactly, you start to actually appreciate the rivalries more as you go along with it. And today, it's a big part of why I'm still playing.
So where do you go as far as your individual goals from here? Last year, your goals seemed to be so concrete. You wanted to pass Pete Sampras for weeks at #1. You wanted your hands on that Wimbledon trophy one more time. What about this year? Is there something as concrete as that you're chasing?
Well, last year was interesting because I won the last 3 tournaments of the year, and I knew that was a great situation for me going into the following year. So
you mean 2011, last part of 2011, leading into last year.
Right. So I knew that was very interesting, and then I won another 3 at the beginning of the year. So here you have 6 in the bag, and you still have 4 months to play, and there's still stuff to do. Then, of course, I had to win 6 plus win Wimbledon, and that's how hard it is to get to world #1, you know. And 1 month earlier, Novak was going for 4 straight Grand Slams, and that just shows how hard it is to stay at world #1. So that was obviously a big goal. So this year, it's a bit different, you know, because I think I'm maybe playing 1 or 2 less events, so I have the feeling I'll be better prepared for each and every event I'll play, and those will be my priority. And then #1 or the rankings, it will just go with my results, and we'll see where that finishes. But I hope, of course, I will have another shot at world #1. We'll see how
you just love to play. You just love to play the game.
And I don't want to miss entire seasons. I don't want to be away from the game for 4 to 6 months. I try to manage my schedule so I stay injury free, and if I do have something, you know, I'll take a bit of a rest, but then hopefully come back strong.
That's always a question I get asked a lot about you, is how you've been able to do that, stay injury free, and obviously all those things come into it. But I don't think people really understand how hard you work off the court, because you do, you know, make it look pretty easy out there sometimes. Could talk a little bit about how you've been able to do that. And I also saw you say recently you actually enjoy the off-court training a little bit more than when you were younger.
It's exactly like that, and I understand more so why I'm doing it today than before. That was for me a key reason, I think, to my success. Early on, I just didn't understand why we're doing all these weights, because I don't need to go to the beach. I need to be strong on the tennis court. So my conditioning coach had to really sort of explain me why we're doing each and everything. And I used to actually be a guy who asked a lot of questions, which I think was a good thing for me. So I really wanted to understand why we're doing all of this and combining it with tennis and so forth. And for me, I've never made a big deal about working hard, because for me that goes without saying that every professional athlete, every tennis player should be doing the hard work in the off season. But this one was interesting this year, you know, after having a lot of tournaments for the last 2 years or so, and not much sort of physical practice, unfortunately, the way I would have liked it to be. But we had the Olympics and we had tough schedulings. So I was really interested to see how was I going to feel and how motivated was I to go and work in the off season, you know, in front of no people, just do my thing, and I loved it. I had a great time, you know, work hard, and then the work's over, and then, you know, you rest and you have no commitments. It was very nice, and I enjoyed it, and that's also something I'm going to do a bit more maybe this year as well.
You know what happened to me in my career is I ended up in '89, I was ranked #4 in the world, and I was playing twice as good as when I was dominating or when I was #1 in the '70s. Do you feel that you're a better player now than you were when you were #1 and just killing everybody?
Well, I would hope so, right? I mean,
right. But I mean,
like,
there's some subtle changes that you've had to make, which are
well,
what?
because of the strings and the rackets and the new players, and maybe the court's a bit slower. Who knows what it is? But you had to change, you know, and adjust to what the players also give you. So it's very interesting, like you mentioned. I mean, you would think that you're a better player than 7 years ago when I was winning, I don't know, 10 events a year, you know.
2 or 3 majors a year.
Right, as well. And I feel my backhand's as good as it's ever been. I think I'm serving so consistent. So things just change, you know, but I'm happy that I was able to come through this whole change really well. And actually, I think I'm playing some of my best tennis today, and I'm still able to rival against all the other guys.
I don't know if it's that you're catching up to her in majors, but I got to tell you something. We're supposed to be kind of not, you know, unbiased here, but if you're playing bad, which doesn't happen that often, she get very upset.
He knows.
Very upset.
That.
Okay, good to know.
She gets very upset.
I'll think of her next time when I'm playing forward.
So if you win #18, you got to give her a little bit of love. Okay.
Give me the love.
She's no one you want to have to answer to.
No.
She is no one you want to have to answer to. Roger,
happy to.
in the off season, you did have a very busy tour through South America, and it made headlines around the world. Can you talk about the reception you received there, and was it more emotional a trip than you expected?
Yes, it was incredible emotional, because I've never been to. I played juniors back in '96 maybe in Mexico, Costa Rica, and Venezuela, and then I never went back to South America the rest of my life. So I always thought, I mean, I wanted to go back, you know, but to also other places such as Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia. And I was looking when we could do it, and then all of a sudden at the end of this year, we knew for some time that it was going to finish, or last year, I'm talking 2012, the season was going to end 2 weeks earlier. So here I said, okay, this is my chance to go over there, and if I go so far, you know, I fly so far, I can't just play 1 or 2 matches. I want to play more and really, you know, make it a once-in-a-lifetime trip for me, and it totally was. I played 3 in Sao Paulo, 2 in Buenos Aires, and then 1 in Bogota in Colombia. So it was an amazing trip, super emotional, like you talked about. I had chills and goosebumps walking in and out of the court. I think it was like 80,000 people over a 6-day period, and I was like had receptions like, I don't know, some superstars or music and politicians.
Like a rock star down there.
Yeah, I'm not, you know, but then all of a sudden here I am in this world, and it was super fun, and the crowds were so happy to see me, and I can't thank them enough for how sweet they were. And I don't know if you've seen highlights, but it was really, really an incredible experience.
You know, you launched your own Facebook page after that tour. You know, a lot of people are wondering if you're ever going to join Twitter. I know you're against that, but Maria finally did it.
Did she?
How many? You could probably get 1 million followers in like 2 days with your fan base around the world. You know?
Who knows?
You never know, right?
You never know.
Never say never. Okay.
Exactly. I won't say
Roger
that,
Federer fans, you never know.